What's up, everybody? Bryce Koon back here with another episode of Swarm Talk here on the Crowded Booth. Hope you're having a fantastic Monday morning. I just had some fantastic Chick-fil-A breakfast as we got ready to record this one. Not a sponsored, but hey, you can always dream. We're talking today as the Jackets on a Victory Monday take down Virginia Tech. We're going to be talking the game takeaways. Is there a quarterback battle? And what does this mean for Brent Key? It's all here on the number one place to find Georgia Tech content, Swarm Talk on the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.
Happy Monday morning, everyone. Bryce Koon, Swarm Talk, Crowded Booth. We're back, brought to you by Section 103, the best place to go get your Georgia Tech gear. Hey, you make sure you head over to Section 103, use code Crowded Booth, 10% off your first order. And the biggest reason why is before that game this week against Miami, you need to get in your coaches' hoodies. You know what I'm talking about, the wonderful coaches' hoodies. Make sure to do just that. Well, today we're talking a little bit about the game. It's a Victory Monday. You know what that means. We got to talk about the big one. Number 4. For the first time in a long time, the Jackets have reached and passed the number 3 win mark. They're at number 4 with this win over Virginia Tech. I'm going to take a couple key takeaways from the game. We're going to talk, is there a quarterback battle when if Jeff Sims comes back? And then the final thing. What does this mean for Brent Key? All that and more today's episode of Swarm Talk. If you're watching over on YouTube, make sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. What it does is it puts us more in the algorithm. It helps us out. It helps you out to find the content as well. If you're listening in on the radio throughout East Alabama and West Georgia, we appreciate it. Let WQEE let them know how much you love the show. And then finally, last but certainly not least, if you're listening in on wherever you get your podcast all over the universe, make sure to like, subscribe, leave a 5-star rating if you so please. Let's dive in to today's show. First off, we need to talk about the game takeaways. What for me do I take away? What for me can I walk away from Blacksburg? Shout out Patience Beach. What can we walk out of Blacksburg, Virginia, and say, this team did this? They played complementary football. And that's one of the biggest takeaways for me. We're going to start right there. The ability to play complementary football is something that few teams across the country can do on a consistent basis. Georgia Tech did that on Saturday. Started off the game with a 10-point lead. That's going to be key. We're going to talk about it in our Miami preview coming up this week. And then finished the game the right way. You could break it down, the drives, the 2 touchdown scoring drives that Zach Pyron led. You could go back to the beginning. You could go back to the defense. But I want a snapshot where complementary football showed up. And it showed up in the final couple minutes of the football game. Obviously, Zach Pyron's pass to Nate McCollum was a great pass. McCollum with the yards after catch. McCollum really, and we'll get to this in a second, it'll be my second point on the game takeaways. That drive was huge. And then for the defense to come out, get a stop, get the ball back, and then Zach Pyron to lead the charge back down the field. That's complementary football. You say, what does that mean, Bryce? It's all 3 facets of the game. Kicking game, special teams, offense and defense, all working together to make that possible. I thought that was huge in this football game. Georgia Tech had to play this. Now, look, the Jackets are not talented enough to just line up and beat anybody. You have to play great complementary football, all 3 facets working together, and I felt like they did that. Now, obviously, you could say, Bryce, well, they had the return on them, and I get that. The punt return, you never want to see that. But for snippets, we saw what this team can accomplish. I would say this team is not as bad as some of the prognosticators think. They're not as good as we may think when we leave a game and we see them win. The key for Georgia Tech is to play well on all 3 aspects. You might say, well, that's obvious. It's low-hanging fruit. But they did it, and you see the result. That's all I got to say. The second takeaway I want to take from this game is when Nate McCollum has a good game, the Jackets win. It's almost right in line when you look at the season stats and what he's able to do. This is a guy that, we talk about development in this program. McCollum's done that. He has become a go-to option for whoever is the quarterback. The chemistry between Sims and McCollum was there. Now Pyron and McCollum is there. This is a kid that if Jackets can keep him on the roster heading into potentially the next coaching cycle, it's going to be very big for the development of what they want to do. Loved what Nate McCollum had did. And then I want to segue into the second topic of the show, but I want to take away Zach Pyron and what he's been able to do, the 4-star out of Pinson Valley High School. This is a guy who won championships as a high school player. You're seeing a guy who came from a winning pedigree have that mentality. And it's really, really huge for what the Jackets want to do. So I thought this game was kind of a Virginia Tech team that is not very, very talented. They've got some veterans in places. Grant Wells is an experienced quarterback. But for the Jackets to go into Blacksburg and win this game, it's just something you couldn't confidently say with the previous head coach. I don't think you could have said that. And so it sticks out to me. They went and took care of business, and they fought. Even when this team allowed 20 straight points, it wasn't the end of the road. They continued to make a turn. They continued to battle and find ways. And we talked about those couple of drives at the end. But how about right before halftime? I think it was around a 65-yard drive, not 65 plays. I think 7 plays, 65 yards, to get the field goal to make it a one-score game, to make it 20-13. That gives you a sense of focus and determination going into the locker room and a sense of confidence saying, hey, we're not out of this. We just let up 20 straight points. We got back on the board. We captured, brought back some of the momentum, and now let's go into what is next. I thought this team battled. They never gave up. The defense we're seeing signs of guys. I mean, Clayton Powell-Lee is an unreal player that is going to be a very good player for the Jackets. The kid's only 18 years old. You're seeing guys like LaMiles Brooks, an old roster that was really battling the flu. Daquan Dowse played a fantastic game. Guys, 2.5 sacks from the defensive tackle position. We talked about in the preseason that football's changing. You necessarily don't have the elite edge rushers. You also have guys elite in the middle that can get pressure. And Dowse had 2.5 sacks. So really liked what I saw from this team. A complete effort, bits and pieces along the way. They've still got to play a full 60 minutes to beat the remaining 3 teams on the schedule, and that last game is going to be very, very, out of the question. But to win these next 2 games and get to a bowl game, you're going to have to play a full 60 minutes. Last Saturday in Blacksburg, we saw what this team can do when they play complementary football, when they allow their playmakers to do some things, Nate McCollum, and young guys stepping up like Clayton Powell-Lee, another guy stepping up in Daquan Dowse, A.C. Lee, Charlie Thomas, and we talk about this guy all the time. I like where they are. I like where this group's head is at heading into Miami week, the last home game of the regular season. Let's head on to the next topic here, and I think it's fair to say, is there a quarterback battle? I'm going to start with this. I don't think that Georgia Tech has been in a situation since the switch, the change, we'll talk about it, since the change where they've legitimately said, we've got 2 guys that can start at quarterback and we can win with them. I don't think they've been in that position. They are now. They've won some games with Jeff Sims. They've now won a game where Pyron started from start to finish. They're in a situation over the next 3 games, and it creates an interesting conundrum. This is where I want some of your thoughts. If you've made it this far in the show, if you have, make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on YouTube, or make sure to like us, share it with your friends over on Crowded Booth, social media, wherever. If Zach Pyron wins these next 2 games, this is the question. You want to think about his redshirt year. Okay, if he plays 2 more games, his redshirt year is gone. So I think in the sense of what is best for the team, you have to ask yourself. I want to correct myself back there. Caught myself. If he plays 2 more games, he's at the 4-game threshold. If he plays the 5th game, he loses the redshirt status. He will be a true sophomore going into next season. So it's quite an interesting conundrum. You could talk about it, and there's 2 points. Let's start off with the first point. You always want to have a kid for longer than you can. If Zach Pyron, you can get an extra year out of him, you want to take it. Obviously you do. We get that. You want to have a developmental year. You want him to come in next year, have that redshirt freshman status, be able to stay athletically for a 5th year if need be. How you turn this is we have to talk about the health of Jeff Sims. Jeff Sims was available on an emergency basis in this football game. What did that tell me? It just says he's healthy enough if he has to. If he has to. He's not 100%. And so the staff pretty much said, and this is just a ballpark number, that a 75-60% Jeff Sims, let's sit between that, because I feel like it got to at least be around 70% to have a chance of playing in the game. Let's say around a 75% Jeff Sims, the staff felt that 100% healthy Zach Pyron was the better way to go. And so with that, it begs the question of, will Jeff Sims be healthy enough for a game later on in the season? So let's play the hypothetical game. Let's say that he does. Let's say that he's back to 100%. I don't know. It's a broken bone in the foot. We'll see. I'm not a doctor. We have an intelligent fan base here. Let us know down below if you know what that injury endures and how you can go through it. But the thing with this injury is if he's healthy to go, you have a quarterback battle on your hands. You have a decision to make. Let's play another hypothetical game. Let's say you beat Miami. Let's say you go on the road and you beat North Carolina. And you're 6-5 heading into Athens. Now listen, that game is the spread's gonna be ridiculous, it's gonna be wild, whatever, probably not a winnable game, all these things. But do you take an opportunity away from a guy who at that time would have won you 3 straight games to get you to bowl eligibility at quarterback in Zach Pyron, just to throw Jeff Sims in there and preserve a redshirt year? I don't think so. I don't think that you take an opportunity away from a young man if that were to happen. Now, if it doesn't happen, that's another situation. If you don't win these next 2 games and Jeff Sims comes back, does Jeff Sims give you the best chance against Georgia? And that's something the staff will have to, obviously go against. And there's a lot of teams across the country right now that they don't have a best option against Georgia. It doesn't really matter. That's how good the folks in Athens have come out to be. But I think that when you look at this situation, it's a good thing to have. You have probably 2 quarterbacks for the first time since the switch, since the transition, that you can say, we can go out there and win. We can go out there and win with these guys. Zach Pyron has flashed why he was a 4-star talent, why he was highly coveted, and a great job from Brent Key, we're going to get that in a second, of Brent Key bringing him in. That was his main recruiter. And a great job of Chris Winkie and Chip Long preparing him mentally and physically for where he's at. But I think in this situation, you have to ask yourself, if you were to win the next 2 games, and the guy that got you there, is it fair to take it away from him just to preserve a red shirt? I don't know. It's a business. Teams can do what they want to do. You also have to ask your question. We're going to get into this in the final segment. If Brent Key is not there next year, and if they go with a new staff, what happens with that? How does that turn out? I don't know if you guys can hear, but we got the leaf blower going out there in the yard. So it'll be interesting to watch how that develops. Does Zach Pyron get the nod against Georgia if Sims is healthy? Or does Sims give you the best opportunity? And this is the final crux of it. The seniors, the guys that will be playing their last football game, potentially if they don't go to a bowl game, against Georgia, deserve the best. So if it's Zach Pyron, you got to play him, in my opinion. If it's Jeff Sims, you have to play him. I don't know. We're going to see what happens. It's a business decision. This is simply a take of what's deserved. Sometimes all those things don't work out. Last and certainly not least, the win over Virginia Tech, what does it mean for Brent Key? And I've been very staunch in groups and everything about my approach on this. The Virginia game was a black eye. It was. It's going to be one that you wish you had back, especially if Georgia Tech gets to 5 wins this weekend against Miami. But where this team goes and this program goes from here is, what does this mean for Brent Key? Well, in my opinion, with Brent Key, you have to ask yourself, is he the guy that's going to take us to the next level over the next 5 to 10 years? Not necessarily next year or 2, but the next 5 or 10 years. And we got the leaf blower going. If you're listening, I appreciate it. Right here next to us. I have no idea if you can hear it or not. But Brent Key in this situation, it'll be interesting to watch and interesting to monitor. Because I don't think that you can sit there and honestly say to yourself, he's the guy that's going to take us to the next step. Could he give you some buoyancy? Could he give you some stability? And he probably already has. But in order for the staff and this program to take the next step, is he the guy? So what did this game mean for Brent Key? Before this game, over on our Discord, I'm going to post that link down below in the comments section, right there in the description, so make sure you hit that, join it. We have over 200 Georgia Tech fans in there. They get some great content, and they can vouch for it. It's great content that you may get before you get it from other places. In this game, Brent Key showed that he had instilled a fighting spirit. He had given these kids who have been through the ringer, a lot of them, in this program. He had given them a why, a more of a why to compete. And that does speak volumes. And so for the prognosticators that are sitting here saying, well, Brent Key needs to be the guy because look what he's done. You're right. You're right. The kids have battled. They've embodied who their coach is. It's a blue-collar mentality. They know they're not the most, well-run team in the ACC, the most talented team in the ACC, but they're battling. And they've already surpassed the win expectations for the year. They've gotten 4. Can they get 5? I placed it around 15% before this game of Brent Key being able to retain the job. Not saying he won't get an interview. He definitely will get an interview. But I think more in this situation, to me, it's gone up maybe 20, 25%. I still don't feel like you can play the emotional card of what's happening in Atlanta right now. You get in trouble when you place too much of an emphasis on emotions. Is Brent Key a fantastic person? Yes. Is Brent Key inspired this group of players in this season? Yes. Is he going to lead you to the promised land in the next 5 to 10 years? We don't know. You can't make an emotional decision based off of one season. We've seen teams do it before, and it hasn't turned out well for them. So that's the only thing I have to say about that. Can the Jackets make the right decision? What does this mean for Brent Key? Yeah, his number went up. Anytime you win, it's not going to hurt you. But is it the best fit for the program going forward? I don't know. We're going to have to see. Hey, listen, I appreciate it so much. This has been a fun show, a very fun show. This is Swarm Talk presented by The Crowded Booth. That's the overarching umbrella, The Crowded Booth. It's got sports talk anywhere you want it. We got some great episodes coming out this week, including Tech fans. We got some stuff, the latest on the Dansby Swanson situation. Make sure to check that out. My name is Bryce Koon. We cover in Georgia Tech each and every single day. Follow me over on Twitter at Bryce_Koon. Follow The Crowded Booth at The Crowded Booth on all social media. TheCrowdedBooth.com. Very easy. Subscribe over at TheCrowdedBooth.com. Completely free, and all of these shows directly into your email inbox. Also, make sure to join the Discord. I'm going to post the link right down below. Hit the like, notifications bell. You know when we're back. This has been Swarm Talk with The Crowded Booth. We will see you next time as we take a look at Miami in a big game on the Flats.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.